On today's episode of The Real, I give you an honest update of where I'm at in my healing journey currently. I give you an update on how far I've come in the last year and a half since I started this podcast, especially how far I've come this year in 2023 and what's really helped me along the way. And I also break down my still ongoing battle with agoraphobia and what's helped me now and what I plan on doing here to help myself further my healing journey. All that more on the other side. Next. Welcome into the real with Joseph Labman. I am Joseph Labman. Welcome back. I hope you guys are having a good week. Episode number 99. We're almost at 100 episodes of these podcast here. Pretty incredible. I can't believe I've already made it this far to almost 100 episodes. Man, it seems like yesterday I just started this. I remember my first one, that day I did that. It just already almost 100 episodes, and we've done more obviously than 100 videos over here combined, all the other sports stuff we've done, and all of that. But to be at 100 actual episodes though of my own show, The Real with Joseph Latman, uh, it's pretty special. It's pretty awesome. Haven't really thought much about it yet. I mean, obviously I'm going to keep going, um, and keep rolling with this as far as God leads me to keep going. And but no, yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm at episode 99 now, and next one will be 100. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. I think I'm going to do a live this Sunday. Um, Maybe have like a football live. I know the Browns don't play this week, but I think I'm going to do just like a live Sunday night, maybe have everybody on. We can all come on and just talk about football or whatever, really, anything, and just kind of celebrate the 100th episode, but also just have some fun for a night like we do. I don't know. We'll see. Stay tuned. I'll think about what I'm going to do. Or I could just do an actual episode of talking about something. I don't know. But stay tuned. I'm thinking about Sunday night though, so I think that'll be a lot of fun. But I wanted to come on today. Um, Looking back at almost 100 episodes now, and kind of just how far I've come from that first episode I did, April 2nd of 2022. Right, and today's October 3rd of 2023, so that's a long time. That's um gosh, I think that's 18 months it's been. Yeah, almost. So it's been a long time. 18 months later, where am I at now in my journey? That's kind of want to get on to really get in the full detail to. You guys heard me since when I came back in the summer after I took a month off when I was going through the Inner Circle program, the Anxiety Guys program. I've kind of got into detail a little bit each show with certain topics I talked about what I've gone through, what's helped me, and then I've also mentioned though that this year 2023 has been the most important year of my life in terms of my healing and my growth, especially since April. Really, when I started the Inner Circle program at the end of February and I finished it up in the middle of June was when I finished the program, which is I came back a week later on the revamp kind of show with the intro and the outro, but that's when I really started to take off. But I really started to feel like I was finally flip the switch, if you want to say, or just found that. What I want to say is, I really feel like I just found that shift in April in the program, in the middle of the program, and so let me give a little timeline here for people that are new. By the way, if you're new here, like, subscribe, and hit the share button for me. I'd really appreciate that. Um, yeah, hit the subscribe button for me. Share this video, rather. That's what I meant to say. And hit the like button for me. I'd really appreciate that. But so, anyways, a time frame. Back in 2015, as many of you know, that's when I started my battle with anxiety, diagnosed anxiety. I had anxiety, panic, GAD, health anxiety, you name it. I had all four of them at the time. that's when I got diagnosis in 2015. I was just come out of a freshman in high school. I was going to my sophomore year of high school. I was a month into my sophomore year of high school, and just things were not right. I went to a new school after I was at the same school before, prior to that, from kindergarten to 8th grade for almost 10 years, and so go to a whole new environment, whole new school, in high school now, and I started dealing with health anxiety, with anxiety when I was right around 11 years old. That's when I really started to start feeling problems with the health anxiety and stuff. But I kind of just kept going through middle school and didn't really think much of it. Just kind of something I hid to myself and would talk to my parents with every now and then about um, the things I was in fear of as a kid back then. And just kept moving. I still had a great middle school years. My middle school years were awesome. I mean, a lot of fun, a lot of especially 6th and 7th grade. 7th grade was, you know, winning national championship football, being on that team rather, and just the whole experience, school, going to school with some of my best friends, hanging out with my friends all the time. It was just really good years in middle school for me overall, by looking back. And did a lot of things that not many people in that age group really do. Not that early. So, just a lot of the opportunities that uh, that team, being on a national championship team, that provided the experience, and just many other things. Just what I was able to do, the people I was with, my friends, and just their families who became my family. Just awesome experience then. Now, when I got towards the end of my 8th grade year, middle of my 8th grade year, I was playing basketball. Um, that's when I started to slowly get a little uncomfortable, and I started to get down on myself, and my confidence, and I started to really uh, feel the health anxiety a little more, to where it really was controlling me. I just didn't really realize it at that time. I'm 14, going on 15 years old. So now I get put in a new environment in school, and it really just took off. It really just, and as that year went on, it just spiraled out of control. And once I got through, I'd say about the middle of my freshman year, I was hanging in there. I was playing basketball, which I mentioned before in the show many times. I was playing basketball, and that's when the health anxiety really started to take off, and I was starting to really go through it, and just my confidence went low. I started to isolate myself from people, and just I was just very fearful. I was very fearful, and I was also very just scared. But also what I didn't realize at the time then, and I didn't, which I figured out, and a lot of what I'm going to share today with you guys about my update on where I am, is a lot of stuff I figured out in the last 6 months. Like, really finally had time to sit back and conclude a lot of things, and really and understand what really happened, and to reframe those things, to make peace with those things for myself, to move forward, and to heal from that, and to move forward from that past. But in fact, going back to my freshman year, I didn't what I didn't realize at the time then, and years after, up until recently, was that I was so focused on the health anxiety, why I was worrying about my health, why I was so, like I said, and I mentioned before on the show, I grew up around people who struggle with hypochondria. So as a child, seeing that, I thought that kind of behavior was normal. And so, and then as I got older, like in my late teens, early 20s, I started realizing, nah, man, maybe that isn't accurate. Maybe you don't have to worry about something that doesn't apply to you, especially with your health. So, um, that's something I had to figure out down the road, which I did. But it wasn't health anxiety really that I was going through that year. It wasn't really health anxiety that really ultimately led me out of school, um, and being locked in my house for. I left school in September 2015, which was a month into my sophomore year, and I was locked in my house for. And when I mean locked, like, I didn't really. The only time I left my house was going to a counselor appointment, which was at the time where I was living, which was probably like, I think 20, 30 minutes away, depending on the traffic. Um, I would drive out there, or I'd have to go to a doctor's appointment because I was on medication at the time. And you have to go get checked up every 3 months if you're on medication. Um, I would leave to go there, or I would go to my aunt's house, which is on like 5 minutes on the other side of town at the time. That's really all I went for September, October, um, November, December, for a while, maybe more than 3 months. I think it was up until the spring. That's when I started to really kind of that year. That's when I started to kind of feel like myself again a little bit. I kind of was snapping out of what all just happened. I think, and what I realized though, what really was going on, which actually, you know what? Let me keep going. I'll go back to this in a second because it all makes sense once I go back to it. If that makes sense. So, um, no. So as the time goes on, when I get to the summer of 2016, I'm taking medication. It's helping me. You know, they put me on Ativan and stuff like that. Not a sponsor, by the way. I have to say that. Not a sponsor. Um, and not recommending anything. A uh, this isn't a doctor or anybody trying to tell you what to take or go ask for. It's between you and your doctor, you and your psychiatrist or counselor or therapist, whatever. I'm just sharing you my past experience today. So I'll clarify that. I'll try to get flagged here. But no, so I get to the summer of 2016. After coming out of spring, I'm feeling better. Now, what do I mean by feeling better? I'm feeling better in terms of I'm slowly feeling more comfortable with myself, challenging myself more. You know, I was very now I have agoraphobia at this time, and that agoraphobia became something in my life the summer before when I was going through schooling. After coming out of my freshman year, going into my sophomore year, when I was forced to play football that summer. You know, I didn't really want to play. I was kind of on the fence about it. A lot of the reasons why I didn't want to play because I wasn't comfortable because I was already feeling the anxiety, and the health anxiety was making me very fearful of playing. But my mom and dad wanted me to play, and they said, "Hey, maybe you should play. Like, come on, like it would be awesome. It's high school football. You know, it's what you've always done." And part of me wanted to. I'm not saying I was like forced, like you have to do this, but it was kind of like my parents wanted me to play, and they kind of said, you have to we want you to be involved in extracurricular activity. So, and at the time, my mom and dad, as parents, I've never been a parent, obviously, but as a parent, you're so in fear of they don't want their child to go down the same path they went down, and not in like a bad way, but not make the same mistakes they made, and not um, have the opportunities they didn't get to have either. So I was put in a tough spot though. I was put in that situation that summer, and what had really happened that summer, which I didn't realize, which affected me later on, and what I now know, is that what caused the agoraphobia. And I keep bringing up the agoraphobia because said for a long time, like I just said, I thought it was the health anxiety. I thought it was GAD itself. I thought it was panic disorder itself. But there was something deep down inside that was causing the health anxiety, that was causing the generalized anxiety, GAD, that was causing the panic. And what was causing all that was the agoraphobia. Now, what caused the agoraphobia? What was the root cause of my agoraphobia? The root cause of my agoraphobia was as I was going through that summer, as I was going through that really from going to a new school and beyond, all the way up until I left, which was a year later, right? During that time span, I became very, uh, how do I want to say this? I became very like just worried. Oh, I don't want to say worried about other people, what other people were thinking about me, but I just felt a lot of pressure on me that made me feel like I had to seek the approval of other people, seek the approval of the new people at the new school for them to accept me, to make me feel welcomed. Now you understand too why I did my show last week. Um, when I talked about fear of rejection and seeking acceptance. And it's like I said in that show last week, I understand because I went through it. And I went through it when I was 15 years old, 15, 16 years old. And I just remember being as a 15-year-old kid, a lot of people I thought I could count on at the time, I didn't feel like they were there to help me out. I didn't feel like they were there to they weren't listening to me. They weren't trying to understand me. But also the new environment, the new school I went to at that time. I mentioned this last week. It was just it was a different culture there. It was a different. Not saying it was bad, not criticizing anybody or anything, but it was different for sure. And it was there was a lot of pressure though. The school had a lot of pressure they put on you with your grades. You had to perform well academically. You had to perform well a certain way in sports. Um, now the school itself wasn't like a sports first school like other schools. Like they didn't really prioritize it like other schools. What I was used to, really, to be honest with you. But there was pressure there. You had to play a certain way, and I think sometimes, like I said last week, you felt like you had to be. It just felt very robotic at times, like in sports and just like with school. What I mean by that is just the school itself had its own culture, and you felt like you had to fit into that culture. You had to fit into how other people were, right? If you weren't like other people, you didn't grow up the same as other people, you didn't go to the same church communities as other people. If you didn't do the same things other people did, you were kind of isolated. You felt like you kind of felt left out, kind of isolated, right? You were just some guy on the outside. It was either fit in or you just we're just going to leave you out, and that's how it felt. And just being honest, and that's how it felt my freshman year. And I think that right there, and then the whole experience of summer when I was playing football, my health anxiety spiraled out of control, and I did not want to go to football practice anymore. There was mornings where I had to be forced to go, and I was up all night, panicking, upset, crying sometimes, just scared, and just kind of just angry, and just but also just like frustrated. Yeah, I wasn't scared of playing football. I've done that my whole life. All right. I'm not worried about that. That wasn't what I was worried about. I wasn't worried about the football part of it. Any of that's the practice itself. What I was worried about, it was just my own life and what I was feeling. I was starting to feel things I didn't understand. I was kind of like, why am I going through this? Why am I? It was all, what I mean? At 15, it just became very overwhelming. And it just, my whole life that summer, every day was the battle. It was a grind. It was like with myself and with the anxiety. And my parents didn't, they were just shocked. Yeah, I think my parents were shocked at what was going on. They didn't understand it. Nobody did. And my coaches didn't understand it. And really, at the time when I was going through that, the head coach of the team was the only person that knew what was really going on. And it was his first year coaching as well. And he had a lot going on himself. He had a lot of hurdles he had to overcome at that school, um, in my opinion, that I saw from afar because felt like I understood him, and where he came from before then, and kind of was the same. We had similar backgrounds in a way, and how we, I think, saw things. We just I never got to go to fruition on that because of what I went through. But um, he was the only person that knew, and he did. Not a lot of coaches know how to handle that. Not a lot of adults, not a lot of teachers, not a lot of parents even know how to handle it. And that's really what happened. But as a 15-year-old at the time, I'm going through, as I said, how I felt about the school itself, and then how I feel now. And I'm trying to, I think a lot of times, and what happened to me was a lot of parents or coaches or authority figures will say, well, you got to keep doing it. You just got to get through it. You got to you can't quit. You got to suck it up. And you got to keep going. But when a child or somebody's trying to tell you something that is hindering them, and it's taking over their life, consuming their life, they're having many, many sleepless nights. They can't stop worrying about it. There's a problem there that needs to be addressed. There's something that needs to be, you need to take a step back from everything and kind of reassess some things. You need to seek proper professional help. And that wasn't happening for me at that time. It was just people were trying to do what worked for them, right? But what I was going through was a lot more severe than what everybody around me went through. At least people that I know, like my parents. Nobody was going through to the extent that I was going through with my anxiety and panic disorder at the time, and health anxiety disorder. which ultimately led to the agoraphobia. Now, let me go back to what I said earlier. Why did the how did the agoraphobia cause all of that? Because ultimately, what led me to once I left the school and what wanted me, or if I could talk, how do I want to say this? What led me to want to leave school? Because I wanted to leave my sophomore year because I was just fed up with everything. I didn't want to leave I could slowly start to see myself not want to leave the house. And I remember like in April of my freshman year too. I remember one day rather, I was out driving in the car. It was the first time I ever experienced this. And I remember driving with my dad and my sister. We were going somewhere like we were just taking a random day trip somewhere. We had nothing else to do. We were gonna go drive out to I think it was like Lodi or something. There's outlets out there. We were just pissing around one day. And I remember we're heading out there. We're downtown Akron. And I remember we were getting on the MLK freeway. And all of a sudden, I just started feeling these weird feelings that freaked me out. Now, what it was anxiety. It was anxiety attack I was having. First time I ever really had one to that extent. And I remember I just looked at my dad and I was like, just, I don't feel good. Take me home. And I just started kind of like panicking a little bit. And I just said, I don't feel good. Can you take me home? And he's like, all right. So he just turned around and he took me home and left me at home. And that was the end of it. But looking back, I remember what I was thinking prior to that, and a lot of what I was thinking about was what I was going through at school. The whole freshman year was catching up to me. Me not being able to, understand how to process certain things, how to express certain things I was feeling and going through that year. There was a lot of new things that year, like just my interests got different in certain avenues, and I didn't know how to handle that because I was really kind of the first time I was interested in certain things. Um, and just there was just so much new, right? There was a lot of new, but I wasn't really looking back on it now. I wasn't really prepared for the new, and I wasn't in the right mindset and the right. Um, I just wasn't prepared for the new. It's like I said. It started at 11 years old. The anxiety itself, and growing up around hypochondriacs, when you see your authority figures going through that, you think it's normal for a while. It's not their fault. They learned from a lot of them got it from their parents too. It was generational anxiety in my family. So I guess that's a way to put it. Being in this environment with that generational trauma and anxiety, and then going to a new environment after going to the same school for 10 years, it all just kind of unraveled as the year went on. And it wasn't all bad. I think there was times where there was stretches of my freshman year where felt good, felt settled in. I kind of liked it. I was like, man, I kind of like high school. I like this new school. Actually, there's a lot of cool things I like about it, more freedom, and but there was just a lot of things I didn't know. I was just very fearful, and I was very afraid to approach new people. And that's really what I'm getting at now, which is what is the root cause? What was the root cause? And what is the root cause of my agoraphobia? And really, what it was just people, community. Because what is agoraphobia? Agoraphobia is when you try to avoid certain situations. For instance, people that can't leave their house consistently, um, or people that you avoid people or situations. If you get too far from your house, or if you think your home is like your comfort zone, your safe place, rather, you think it's your safe place, and you get too far, you get in situations where you feel uncomfortable. You want to avoid it and escape. You want to run home back to your comfort zone. A lot of times, you just stay in your comfort zone because you don't want to confront the things that scare you and cause you to go into anxiety, into a panic attack, or maybe have you start to have health anxiety like me. And so that's what caused my agoraphobia, is because after all that, right, my freshman year, my sophomore year, or my 1 month rather, sophomore year, what made me hide in my house after that was I didn't want to be around people anymore. And I mentioned this recently a couple times, which I figured out. I didn't feel safe around people anymore. I didn't feel safe because I didn't feel that whole year, that whole time, that whole experience. I just felt all that pressure. You feel like you had to be accepted by everybody. You feel like you had to just fit in, right? You feel like you had this pressure on you to be a certain perform well academically and sports wise, and if you didn't, you just felt kind of frowned upon. At least that's how I felt because all the pressure that was put on me, and I didn't feel like I was. You start to, and I remember as the year went on, I think what also caused that after all that was just I feel like I let a bunch of people down. I thought people were mad at me because I let them down. I thought I let them down, so then in turn I thought they were also mad at me. If that makes sense. And so that's how I felt, though, man. That's, and I didn't realize at the time, as a 15-year-old kid, you don't know how to rationalize that. I mean, hell, I'm only 24 now. I'm very people a lot more wiser than me, but 10 years, almost a decade later, really, I now understand what really happened. I'm a lot more mature now, and also, I think when it comes to anxiety, like I say, I wouldn't say I'm an expert, put that label on me, but with all this, I think I know what it is because I've experienced it firsthand at the very highest level. So, and I've overcome many things. So I trust myself and who I am and my experience to be able to identify certain things. Um, but yeah, I mean that's all it was. It was just all that pressure. It was just all that, just like the weight of the world was. You just feel like all eyes were on you. Like that's how I felt my whole time I was there. I just felt all eyes were on me by people that were putting pressure on me, especially, and just that it was just very odd. It was very, I didn't know how to think. And as the year went on, it just escalated. And I started having small little anxiety attacks. I said that day in the car. And then the football experience, that was just a rough summer, which I've talked about before, where it was just a very up and down thing. Which I mentioned in my first episode too, by the way, where I really got in depth about that. But even now, I have a better understanding about all of it now because I understand what really was causing it now. Going through the inner circle program, I know what really was causing it. And that's what it was. I didn't feel safe around people anymore because I felt there was just a disconnect between me and people, between me and the community I was around. Not everybody, but just um, like even my own parents and I, for a while in that summer, we kind of were at a disagreement about certain things because they thought, and honestly, disagreement. They were frustrated. We were all frustrated, and the frustration wasn't really solving any problems for a little bit. It was just people were just upset about what was happening. We were all shocked. Like even I was shocked. I'm like, how did it get to this point? What the hell's going on? And I just wanted to stop at the time. I was trying to stop it as soon as I could because I didn't want to experience the pain I was going through, the trauma I was going through every day. What felt like trauma, just mental. I mean, the episodes with anxiety I was going through every day, and just be in the middle of practice, and um, you know, and going through trying to go through drills, and all of a sudden I just start panicking. The health anxiety starts kicking in, and I would have to leave practice, and I would have to sit out of practice, and then I think that also that affected me as well because sitting out of practice, sitting out, and there was one incident in particular, and I think this is where the miscommunication. I said I didn't feel safe around people, and that's what caused my agoraphobia, right? Um, One incident in particular I always remember, and I'm not angry about it anymore because for a long time I was very angry with a certain person for how they treated me this one day and for how they made me look this one day. But they didn't know. And so I can't be mad at them because they didn't know. And I understand how they interpreted it. But my position coach at the time when I was playing football, there was one day in particular we were doing practice. We were in the middle of a conditioning drill. It was a hot summer day, middle of July, right? And we're doing like two practices a day. I don't know. We were doing all kinds of crazy stuff. But um, we're in the middle of a conditioning drill. I remember as I'm going through the drill, number one, it was one of those days where I had to be forced out of the house again. I didn't want to practice. I didn't want to go, rather, at all. I was up all night, didn't sleep, panicking, having anxiety. I was just feeling bad, going through severe anxiety. And so I'm sitting here in practice one day. We're doing this drill. We're doing like high knees, running in place, high knees. So it's like we're doing like conditioning drill. And I remember in the middle of the drill, I just started like, the exercise along with the anxiety started getting more intense with the exercise. And so you go pile that together, you start feeling like there's something wrong with you. Like I started feeling really dizzy. I remember I just started feeling dizzy, short of breath. I just feel like I just felt off. I started getting a lot of these intrusive thoughts in my head, which I didn't understand those. You gotta remember, guys, I didn't understand any of this stuff at the time. I didn't know what anxiety was, but I'm going through it. I'm feeling it. I'm like, man, something's wrong. I start getting scared. And I remember I looked at the coach and I was like, man, I'm feeling dizzy. I feel like something's wrong. The coach just kind of like yelled at me and he's like, go, just get out of here. Go see the trainer. So I'm like, all right. So again, I think the misunderstanding that wasn't the first time that happened. I think the misunderstanding that really caused a lot of rift between him and I, just because I think he just he didn't know. The coach didn't know. I'm not mad at the guy. The guy didn't know. And so I think he just interpreted me as a kid that was quitting, right? A kid that was soft and was quitting. And I think what really hurt though was I go to the sideline and the trainer was there, and the trainer was awesome. Shout out to her. She really helped me out a lot that summer. But she's sitting there, she starts talking to me, and I'm explaining to her what's going on. She's like, "Okay, well here, let's settle down, and just relax for a minute. Let me get you an ice pack or something." She was getting me something, right? Just drink some water, relax. And so I'm sitting there on the bench, and I look down towards the end of the field to my right, and I look to my right, and the coach has the position group in a huddle, and he's sitting there and he's telling them something. And it was as soon as I left. So I immediately thought in my head, is this guy using me as an example in front of everybody? I remember I was sitting there like, and I remember it made me feel horrible. Well, come to find out, I'm not going to say who, but somebody who was in the position group, I pulled him aside and they told me, they're like, yeah, they told me what he said. And the guy pretty much made me out as an example of how not to practice. Anybody that ever does that, that's terrible. What he just did. And that's soft. And we don't do that. Guy made me look like, belittled me in front of everybody and made me like use me as an example of it. And it just pissed me off. And I remember I was just I was like, but also made me just feel horrible too. And it was from that practice on, that's when I started to say, you know what, man, fuck this shit. In terms of like, I didn't care anymore. I didn't want to go to school anymore. I didn't want to go to practice anymore. I was done with everything. But now I'm feeling angry. So now I have another element added to me. But also, I started to interpret that it changed my lens of how I thought people started to view me, because I started to think, and you know what? I will be honest. That guy kind of opened the door for how some of my teammates treated me before I left at times. People started treating me like that in a way. And it hurt because deep down inside, I knew what was really going on, but they all didn't know. And it hurt. It did. It hurt because it made me. I knew who I really was. I knew who I was before. I was somebody before I went to that place. And when it came to football, I wasn't going to say I was the best player. I was never the best player, but on my team, but by far, there was guys that were much better than me. I was fortunate to play with some great players, but I knew my experience I had. I was a starter. I played for a national championship team. I played against high schoolers when I was in middle school, and we beat them. I knew who I was. And so when it came to like the football part of it, I'm just, I wasn't really like, and felt inferior to anybody there, to be honest with you, at all. Nobody. And so, but that also just, it kind of like made me feel a certain way, because it started to make me really question myself. And that's where I started to think, gee, is this guy right? Is this guy really, is that really who I am? Am I that person? Am I not who like you could see how my confidence started to really take a dip now that summer. And this slowly happened in basketball too, my freshman year, a little bit. And this slowly happened in the school itself. Except those weren't like that, but they were kind of like things that made me feel a little differently about myself. Or it was adults, people you thought you can count on to be adults, that really weren't acting like adults sometimes in certain situations in the school and in the certain environment, in that environment, certain situations. And those things I started to really internalize them and take them personally. But I also, at the same time, I started to really doubt myself. And when I started to doubt myself, I started to everything just started to slowly crash down. But that was the ultimate, was that day. And my last practice too before I left was top that one. So what happened to me that day? Why I was pissed off that day? Because what that guy did that day was worse than what happened that day. You can believe that. But again, I can't. Not saying it was all. I'm not blaming anybody at all, and I'm not even mad at the guy. And I've forgiven the guy in my heart years later because he didn't know. You know what I mean? He didn't know. He was interpreting. I understood why he interpreted the way he did. He just thought I was a kid that didn't care and was just a quitter, and he was trying to toughen him up, maybe. Or now there was some things maybe I was kind of like, probably shouldn't do that. I've been around. I had plenty of experience up to that point. I knew. I think I could identify good coaching and not, but uh, I again though, I just think that all of that though, right? All of that. Take all that whole experience. That's what led me to not feel safe around people because I started to feel embarrassed around people. I started to feel how that guy made me feel. I started to believe it. And I started to isolate myself for a long time. And I know this is a longer timeline than I intended on going, but I feel like I have to give full context to you guys so you guys can really understand fully where I'm going to be going today with really where I'm truly at now. So I'm going to start getting there now. So again, I leave school 2015 September. I fast forward to this next summer. I'm on medicine. It's helping me. The medicine's kind of numbing a lot of things, helped me get out more slowly. And eventually, there was a point where I started to get out freely again. I started to slowly go everywhere. I started to be able to go to a lot of the same places. Maybe not. No, I couldn't go like. I still wasn't able to go like an hour further from my house at the time, fully, like consistently. But I was kind of back to normal again in a way. And by the summer of 2016, from there on, all the way till a year later, all the way till June of or July. I think it was June of 2017. Yeah, I was getting around freely again, and I started to feel back to normal again. And now I was still battling with anxiety. I was still really dealing with health anxiety. I was still caught up in the health anxiety. And what I didn't realize at the time, though, was that issue that was there. The medication was just numbing it, but I didn't heal it. It was still inside of me, and I was just kind of. I thought I just got rid of it and just went away. But then what happened was, guess what? I had change again. I moved. We had to move, and we ended up moving in July of 2017. And we didn't move far. We moved in an area I'm very familiar with, but it was just a change itself, a change of environment. I got so comfortable in that house. I spent 7 years in the home I was in at that time, and I had lot that I went through. I was in that house, and very close to the neighbors. Like when I got away from school, once I got out of school and stuff, and 15 years old, that next summer and stuff, I started doing my own little lawn care service in the neighborhood, trying to make some money, hustling. And a lot of those neighbors I'm still friends with today. They're good family friends of ours, and they took really good care of me, and they became family. I felt at home. It felt like home. It was home, and that's always where I grew up, was over there at my old house. And so again, change of environment. It was a whole new, I'm going to a whole new environment now. I moved, and so when I moved to my new house where I'm at now, it really messed with me for a while. Really messed it because change occurred again, and all that pain I was trying to numb away was still there. The agoraphobia was still there, and I didn't never really fully addressed it. You know what I mean? So I need some water. And so my first year here at this house, I didn't leave this house at all. The only furthest I would go was a block or two away. I was just my agoraphobia. I was just very fearful to leave the house because I was afraid. My health anxiety was really um, just overboard now. Like it was bad. Like I had agoraphobia with health anxiety because I was afraid if I went further from the house, I thought something was going to happen to me. I would start going to a panic attack, and I would just turn around and run home. And so, uh, ultimately, what helped me though, as time went on, was once I started to settle in. It took me a year to settle in. It took me that long. It took me about a year to really settle back in and to feel comfortable again. And then after a year, I started to I had my bicycle, and that was the way I would kind of get around. And because I didn't want to ride in the car, really, I didn't like being at the passenger of a car because I felt kind of trapped. I didn't feel like I had control, and so that's a lot of too with agoraphobia. People don't know. And a lot of this episode today is for people with agoraphobia, and that's why I wanted to really do this today. This episode be all raw and upfront with you guys, and just talk for however long because we talk about health anxiety, we talk about panic, we talk about GAD, we talk about all of that. Agoraphobia, I think, is something that needs to be addressed more because I think agoraphobia is really actually the root cause of a lot of people's anxieties. And what once you find out what the root cause of your agoraphobia is, that's really what's bothering you. Which basically that's what I said last week in my last episode last week, right? And so again, I fast forward a year after I leave this house, or a year after moving into this house. Starting to feel a little better again. I'm starting to push myself on the bike. I'm going from 2 blocks now. I'm going to 4 blocks, going to 5 blocks, going to 6 blocks, right? And I would have a radius. I had like a marker. I would only go so far, and I would turn around and go home. Like it was this far, and that's it. And so, um, and then as time went on, I started to get a little more comfortable. I think in the winter of 2018, 19, I've explained that many times on the show. I've also talked about just the crazy story. The one night I was out at 12:30 at night, in 2 feet of snow and -20-degree weather, sitting on a bike at midnight, looking at a corner, sitting on a corner, red light, and looking down at my speedometer, and it's 12:30 in the morning. Um, because what had really happened, uh, I started becoming really frustrated, but I also started to. It went back really to all that stuff I talked about earlier. It made me a perfectionist because once you start judging yourself and you start personalizing things like I did with that whole experience, just that pressure I always had on me, you start to become a perfectionist in a way because you feel like you have to keep pressure on yourself to be a certain way. And so that's where I went wrong with that in the beginning of my when I was trying to help myself because and this is really before I really started getting into like dentist stuff, the anxiety guy stuff. Before I really found that, I was really just trying to help myself. I was trying to fight. I was fighting against the anxiety. I was trying to fight back for my life. And so a lot of times, like, well, what led me to be out on a bike at 12:30 at midnight? It was because I tried to go out a couple times prior in the middle of that day, but I wasn't able to reach the destination. Like I would always set myself like today, I want to reach this point and back to my house on the bike, and I would feel good about myself because I feel like okay, I'm getting out further. I was fighting the agoraphobia. Really, what I was fighting. I didn't realize it at the time. I thought I was pushing myself. I was trying to expose myself constantly, which is what a lot of people think. They feel like they have to constantly expose themselves and push, push, push to overcome. But I don't think that's accurate. I don't think I think you're wrong. And I'm gonna get to that in a little bit because I've learned that now in the last 6 months. I realize now what it really was. And so um that was me for a while. I was doing that for a while. And that's why I went out at 12:30 at night is because I felt so down on myself. I just said, you know what, I'm gonna go do it right now, and that's what I did. I was man back then. Let me tell you, I was just such a mo. But you know what though, I'll always remember that winter for the rest of my life because yeah, I wasn't doing the proper healing the right way. I wasn't doing things correctly how I should have. But this my spirit, I had enough. You know what I mean? I had enough. It was a year after moving to a new house. 3 years post all that stuff, and I just had enough. I had a fighting spirit again, And that's what it was. I was going off of a fighting spirit for a long time. But I didn't realize how to properly heal. You know what I mean? I didn't realize how to really understand things. I was just going. And so, um, but then as time went on, I started listening to the Anxiety Guy more. I started studying his work more. I started to understand more what things really were. But I'm still just kind of going along, right? I'm just going along. And this went along, and I started to get out further again. I started to feel comfortable again. And then COVID hit. And when COVID hit, everything shut down, obviously. I'd gotten actually to a point where I was able to go to the rec center down the street every day, and I was doing that. And I was kind of getting around town again freely in 2019. I was getting around freely. I was going far. I was able to push myself further on the highway. I was getting on the highway again. I wasn't on the highway for 2 years. From 2017 to 2019, I did not get on the highway. Well, from when I moved, which was August of 2017 to um gosh, when was that? It was December of 2019. That was how long it took me to get on the highway. And so, yeah, I did not want to get on the highway. I was like, I was stuck in this very, very, very like small radius. And so, but now I started to get out again a little further. But then when COVID hit, that lasted for about a couple months of that winter of 2019, 2020. But then once COVID hit, everything shut down again. I couldn't go to the rec center anymore. But I was also starting to feel my anxiety to creep up again. I think I was exposing myself, pushing myself so much for about a year and a half, a year and some change, that was starting to run its course now, right? And so COVID hits, I kind of slowly go back down again, but I'm still getting around. I'm very comfortable. I have comfortable. I would do the same thing every day, the same biking routes. I would just do the same thing every day. Um, and then I get to 2021. Well, actually, no, I get off medication. I get off medication October 2020. When I got off medication, I was starting to feel a lot better about myself. Um, I dropped a ton of weight in 2 months when I got off medication. My gosh, I dropped a ton of weight. I dropped almost 80 pounds, it felt like. But, um, once I got the medication, now I was like, I felt I was able to think again. I don't know why. I mean, again, I had these, when I needed, when I was prescribed medication, rather, when I was going through all that at first in high school, I needed medication at the time. But I got to the point where I felt like I didn't need it. And then, to be honest with you, it was still acting as a crutch for me. And so I felt like it was time for me now and I felt God was leading me to get off of it. So I did. I tapered off of it and started taking more just all natural stuff, which I still take. And so I get to 2021. I'm getting off medication. I actually started to feel really good about myself again. I was starting to feel like really confident in myself. Now I'm really starting to push myself more and more in the car. I was getting in the car more frequently, and going further, going to different towns again, going like 20 minutes from the house. Yeah, I was feeling more comfortable again. I was biking everywhere. I was biking like a maniac in 2021. Man, my biking routes 2020. I was going from town to town on the bike. I was everywhere. And I just kind of like, it was weird. I don't know. It was like a flip switch, but I just was feeling comfortable again. I felt really comfortable myself. I felt really confident. The health anxiety was gone for a while because I was just so comfortable, confident in myself with the exercise I was doing with the bike. And just, yeah, I don't know. I just felt like found a groove for a little bit. But then as that summer went on, which I've talked about many times, I was very isolated through that year and I didn't realize it. Like when the summer hit and everybody started going out and doing things, like my family, they would go out and do things because I still wasn't going out further and doing certain things yet, like normal things. I was still kind of in like my own radius, and I would only go as far as to what I feel like I could control. And I didn't realize reason why I actually feel more comfortable on the bike pushing myself further because I felt like I was in control. And so, and I didn't feel like I didn't want to drive. I didn't feel comfortable driving. I didn't feel comfortable in a car. And so But I was feeling better though. But there was still something deep down inside that was bothering me. And so I get to the end of that summer, and it was a rough summer for me actually because yeah, I was getting out a lot for I was exercising a lot, but internally I was just something felt off. And what it really was, which I mentioned last week, it was just the end of that road. This road I've explained here for 50 minutes now. Just the end of this road of all that baggage, and I finally realized I had to. Like I remember one night I was, and this is when I finally realized it. July 30th, 2021. I go to a restaurant right around the corner from my house. It's my cousin's birthday, and it's the night crowd, right? And it was the first time I've really been out in like a night crowd in a while, like just at a restaurant, kind of like a bar restaurant. And I remember before I left, I was anxious. I was a little nervous, but I said, you know what? I could do this. And so I just got in the car and I went. And I get over there. I'm sitting, it's just me, it's people. I'm sitting at the table, obviously, people I know, but it was very crowded that night. I just felt very tense sitting there. And I was thinking, all of a sudden, I had a lot of these thoughts start racing through my head of a lot of things, a lot of emotions, right? And a lot of fears. And I just started to slowly start to crumble, like just my anxiety. And it got to the point where I got up and I just shot out of there. I just left and ran out to the car. And my dad ended up taking me home. But I remember when he was driving me home, something just felt off. Something felt like different. And my dad said it out of my mouth. We were driving home. He was like, you know what? I think now's the time you really got to help yourself. Like, try to really go see a counselor, go slow down, and really kind of reassess things. Because what you're doing, you've been trying to do it on your own for so long, but you've only gotten so far. And you're not where you want to be. And so that's really what it was for 6 years. I was just trying to do something on my own. That's why I isolated and why I stayed away. But I was trying to just fight, and I didn't want to really accept what really happened. That's all it really was. Because I was so hurt at what happened. And I was so hurt at all the things I had to miss out on because of what I was going through. And was so I was just couldn't believe what happened. I was just kind of like numb to it for a while. And I didn't want to believe it. Didn't want to accept it. And I just felt hurt in a lot of ways. And as time went on too, like, the agoraphobia hurt my relationships. It hurt everything in my life. I just felt like everything I once had was gone. And it just hurt. And it hurt for a while. And so I just had to start seeing help. And when I started seeing help in August of 21, um, I was able to finally slow down and unpack some things, connect some dots. And that led me all the way up to my first show in 22 in April of 2022 last year. And I knew the whole time God was leading me towards towards doing that for a while. I mean, for a couple years, like in 2020, I started getting the idea I wanted to do like a sports podcast. But then as time went on and I got closer to it when I actually did it, could feel God was leading me to really tell everybody he was telling me this what he was wanting me to do, which was really open up about my story and share my story, what I was going through, what have been going through with other people to the world. And so this is what he was preparing me for. And all those years I was out on that bike, guys. I had a lot. That was my college. So many podcasts I listened to in my ears every day. So many anxiety guy videos I listen to every day. Like so much information, like just so many shows and things that people I studied for years, all those years, and prepared me for where I'm at now, for where he's going to be taking me. I don't know where God will take me from here, but I do feel I'm in my lane to where he's calling me to go. And, he prepared me for it. And so, but all that though, and I had people that inspired me along the way. And I remember November of 21, so a couple months before I finally did my first episode, I had a guy he was my neighbor when I moved over here, and he passed away tragically in a plane crash the night before Thanksgiving in November. And I've mentioned his name on here before. His name was Rick, and Rick was he was always that he was sometimes he was in town, sometimes he was out of town. He was a busy man. He was a businessman. He traveled a lot. Was a pilot as well, but he was just a great guy, and he just I wouldn't say I knew him as well as probably a lot of other people knew him, but he was my next door neighbor, and him and I just kind of hit it off. Especially him and my dad, we just kind of hit it off, and he was just a cool guy. He was just a awesome guy, but he just had a great personality, a funny personality, and but he really inspired me a lot. And I knew who he was. I started to study a lot of his history, and because he was actually a very prominent guy that a lot of people knew. He was in the business world and globally, and like it just, but he was his own boss. Like a lot, he invented a lot of his own things. He was like an inventor. He was a creative mind. He was an entrepreneur. He was just the guy just did it his way, and he had fun with life. That's the one thing you respect about him the most. People that knew him, he was just a fun guy. And I remember my last time I talked to Rick. It was actually the same day I went to that my cousin's party that night. Earlier that day, that same day, and it's kind of funny the day was connected. Um, Earlier that day, I remember I was telling Rick, I was like, "Yeah, I want to start my own podcast." I was helping him something next door. He was loading his bike. Him and his wife were going on a trip up to Michigan with they're going to put a bike in the back of their like car and go up there and park it and go take a little tour on the bike up around Michigan. And so he needed help. I was going by and I saw he was trying to do it by himself. So I pull over. I start helping him out. We're out there for a while, like an hour, and we just start hanging out, talking, and as I'm helping him, and I remember I started telling him about that, like, I have an idea of a podcast and kind of something I want to do. I remember Rick he started telling me, he's like, "Hey man, just go for it. Like, just do it. Like, just go for it. Follow your dreams." Basically, he was saying to me like, and I knew who he was. I knew what he was, a guy that followed his dreams and became very successful, but also just left an incredible life behind, incredible story, and he's just an incredible guy to look up um, to motivate you. And so when he passed, it really hit me hard. It was really hard on me. That remember that first couple of days was really rough, and when I found out, and but as time went on, though, when led me up to the point when I did my first episode, and what made me start to really believe once I started seeing, I'm seeing professional counseling now, and I'm starting to see things differently now, starting to kind of settle down and really process a lot of things now because of the counseling was really helping. But also, I started to grow my spiritual life more with God, more intently. Just I started to grow deeper with God, which all led me up to my first show. Um, yeah, I knew I was being led to do it. And I knew like people like Rick and how Rick inspired me in life. This is where God called me to be. And so ever since, now that's my timeline, but um, but ever since then, though, up until now, well, up until I did my first show, from my first show up until now, so this last year and a half, this last 18 months, um, it's been a whole different world for me. My whole life changed. It was a whole new chapter in my life, and it was. I finally started healing. My true healing started when I started this podcast, and so everything you guys have seen me from this past year, this last 100 episodes or 99, rather, same thing. You know what I mean? These last 99 episodes, including today, you guys have all gotten to see me progress. And a lot of like when I post on my Instagram and stuff or on Facebook about you see me out on the bike, you see me out doing it, I'm just documenting my journey for you guys so you guys could see it in real time. That's all I'm doing. And a lot of what I talk about in posts, like I said last week, it's a ministry and it applies to me. And so this last year and a half, I've gone through a lot. I went through the health anxiety program. Now back in August of 2021, when I started seeking counseling as well, I also did the health anxiety program because my health anxiety at the time was anytime I faced a lull, my health anxiety would come back. You can probably tell each time I mentioned the timeline there. Um, so once I figured out the health anxiety part of it, and I started seeing counseling, I started doing this podcast. So we're talking last year now, 2022. I started to feel better. I started to feel more at ease. I started to feel more comfortable in doing things. I had some things happen in my life that personally as well that I started to challenge myself more, put myself out there, which helped me feel more confident in myself. And it was also things I wanted to. So that was kind of surprise happened again, to be honest with you. But um, everything I did, though, I felt God has always led me to do it. And so, but this past year, though, in January of this year, actually, January 2023, I went through a week, like I talked about before, where I started to slowly start to feel that lull again. Like I was kind of just going, I'm doing this podcast now, I'm going along, right? I just got done, I did the health anxiety program. I'm feeling better, I'm feeling confident, but I'm still struggling with the agoraphobia, and I'm only going so far from the house still. I'm in this radius. My radius has grown, but it's very like on and off, right? There was still something deep down inside last year, when I was doing the show, guys, that just felt off. And so I got to a point about the end of January where I started struggling sleeping at night again. I felt off again. I was starting to get a little um, anxious again. I was getting health anxiety. Slowly was creeping back in. And so I knew about the Inner Circle program. Because at this time I'm telling you guys about Dennis Simsek and all his programs. And so um, I said, you know what? I need to take this to a deeper level. And I knew the Inner Circle program was made for me. And that was the last thing I needed to do to really help me find that shift. Like there was just something that was still off, even while I was doing the show. But the show was helping me continue to dig deeper and dig deeper and dig deeper. And talking to you guys, reconnecting with my friends again, reconnecting with all you people, connecting with what this podcast provided for me. It was helping me so much, right? It was getting me back to reality, back to what I missed, and it has been. But um, when I got to the end of, I go through February, I get the end of January, I go through that. As February goes on, I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm thinking about it. I get to about the middle or towards the end of February this year. I said, you know what? I'm doing the Inner Circle program because I knew there was something deep down inside I need to figure out. Because I just felt kind of stuck again personally. And so, as I do the Inner Circle program, um, it really did what it was designed to do: go inner, go deep, get to the real root causes. What's really causing everything? And so, and what I found when I found that shift in the middle of April, which is probably weeks, it's a 16-week program. So when I got to about week 7, that's when I started to figure out my shift. And what it all led back to was safety. I said, okay, so safety. And once I figured out safety, and I connected safety, my fear of safety, not feeling safe till everything, it was like a shift happened. And then once that happened, I started to really connect a lot of dots, really at a deep level now. And it all led back to not feeling safe around people, community, right? And then it started to go really deeper. Like this summer, just this past summer, we're already in fall now. Geez. Once I got out of the program, I started doing some more work on myself, right? And when I took that month off for doing this podcast, I was finishing up the end of that program. I started to find that shift even more, and I went deeper into safety now, and it all led back to that experience when I was 15, 16 years old. The last time I was really out, normally out in public, being able to go anywhere in the world, and it all just led back to that pain. That pain was so hidden away for so long. What I felt, not just that day at that practice, but just that whole time. And what ultimately drove me away to go hide in my house for a long time and just hide away from people. It was because of that pain. I didn't feel safe around people. I didn't feel um, comfortable enough going back out in public again. I didn't want to. Why didn't I? I didn't want to still leave my house because I was so afraid of interacting with people. It wasn't, because I had got all through all that 7 years, all this last 7, 8 years. It wasn't the health anxiety really. It wasn't going to certain environments really. It wasn't going places. It wasn't traveling in a car. It wasn't um, any like the normal functioning things that I can do. I always done. I mean, yeah, I haven't done it in a while. So as I've been getting back into it more recently, it's been a little off. It's like if you go to prison or you go away for a while, you come back out. It's you kind of gonna get back in rhythm of life again. That's something I've had to go through this past year, especially in the last 6 months. But it wasn't any of that. It was just my fear of being around people, and also I didn't realize what I was deprived of through all that. When you hide away from that, when you're in fear of that, I missed out on a lot of crucial things I needed in my life: community, love, connection, physical touch, being around people. Having people that help you feel joy in your life, people that uh, I didn't realize how deprived of that I was because I was. If you hide away from it for years, you have none of it. And so for 7, 8 years, I didn't have that in my life. And it wasn't until this past year and this podcast and just 7 years, excuse me, leading up to the podcast but really since April of this year when I finally figured it out. And it was kind of funny. It's a year after I started the podcast, I found that shift. Now I understand more. And now I know what really happened now. And I know what really caused everything. And that my battle really is just with agoraphobia. And so um, I figured all that out, and it was just community, and it was just my fear of being around people, because the last time I was around people, I felt like people didn't like me, and I felt like people didn't accept me, and I felt like people were trying to change me or trying to make me be who they wanted me to be. I just didn't feel safe around people, and so I avoided being around people for a long time, and interactions, and just not everybody. It wasn't like people I grew up with I knew really well, but it escalated. Like one of the things I've had to really work through is, and it took me a long time. It still does. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Like, and now I'm gonna really get into like where I'm at currently. Like some of the current things. Like, so one of the things I've really had to work on is not feeling ashamed if you. It's just something a lot. And this, I'm glad I'm saying this because I know there's so many of you guys watch here now. If you deal with anxiety, you feel the same way, and this is what causes your agoraphobia too. You're afraid of making a scene or having anxiety or having anything in front of people outside of your like my parents are the two people I'm most comfortable with because they've been with me through it all. But it's like once you get outside that comfort zone, which can be people too, not just your home, like I mentioned earlier with the home, it could be people too, your comfort people, what you deem as safe. Um, you feel uncomfortable around other people, and so once I figured out though all this through the inner circle program, like you gotta remember, guys. Like, well, you don't know. What am I saying? Like, you gotta remember, guys. But last year, when I was doing a lot of new things, I was still very scared to interact in certain interactions with certain people because even if it was over text, because it was new for me, and I didn't realize it now because I didn't go through the program yet. I didn't realize a lot of it yet, like I do now, obviously, a year later. Um, but had the courage to go do certain things, which I'm proud of myself for doing. But I was still very fearful in a lot of ways because I was interacting with people that I didn't really know, or just interacting with people in general again, to be honest with you, being around people again. And even sometimes when I did some of these shows I did in the last year, it was kind of uncomfortable at times for me, but I got through it and it helped me grow more. But it all led me to finally finding my shift this year and understanding now that what really caused my anxiety. And so where I'm at now, guys, is I'm still healing my agoraphobia. Um, that's where I'm at now. But I feel so much better with it because I know what really causes the agoraphobia now, and it's all of it. And a lot of it too is just the lack of what I didn't have, what I was deprived of for 7, almost 8 years, which was community. And so what I've been implementing now in my life is just getting comfortable now more with in the last I would say, 3, 4 months. It's just really diving more into my community, healing more in community, feeling safe and comfortable again in community. But not only feeling safe amongst people, because I feel fine around it's being myself, accepting myself amongst people. And I know who I am. I know who I am now. But for a long time I lost touch of I questioned who I was, and I didn't feel safe being myself around people because of what happened when I was 15, 16 years old. And so, but now I'm at a point in my life, like I said, where after going through the program back in the spring, and really connecting all the dots, understanding the safety aspect of it, and how that connected not just with community and with people, but also like with the health anxiety, all that stuff too. But understanding what really caused what's the agoraphobia. That's my biggest thing. What was causing all that, and really it was just I was rerunning past trauma, and I was trying to avoid. I was trying to avoid, and I caught myself doing this last year too when I was starting to challenge myself more. I'm doing the podcast, I'm interacting with certain people or new people I don't know. I was still trying to avoid the pain I felt back then at 15, 16 years old. And so before I did that program back in the spring of this year, I kind of got to the point where I knew now because I'm much more mature now and much more. Um, and not only that, man, when I finally had the courage to do that day last year and do my first episode, it changed everything in my life, like I said. But it also proved to me again that I am I know who I really am deep down inside, and I can do it. And your guys' reaction, the reaction from you guys, especially the people that have been in my life for a long time, that I love you guys so much. You guys really made me feel. You guys brought me back again, and you guys helped me feel. You know that I wasn't alone, and that I wasn't never alone, and I was never and I was never by myself, and I was never uh, that pain I carried. I was never alone because I keep saying that because that's really how I felt for a long time. I was just alone, and the way you guys embraced me that day when I did that first episode was unbelievable. I did not expect that, and it just brought me back again, brought my spirit back fully. It was what I needed, and so being here now, what I'm going through now, going through the program, making it this far, um, here I am now. Here I am now. And so, um, that's really all I have to battle with still is just the agoraphobia. And I've come a long way with it this summer in battling it. Um, I think something I still struggle with that maybe you guys, if you guys are going through it, this is why I wanted to do this today. Why I felt God was calling me to do this really just raw and again, um, is because if you're going through it, number one, don't feel like you have to hide, but also number two, don't feel like uh, you're behind, or don't feel like because for a long time when I missed out on all those things in my life, guys, that I wasn't able to accomplish, you know, I didn't have the normal high school, college process, obviously, and there's still things like I still don't have in my life that I'm trying to achieve, and that I will achieve, that I'm getting striving towards every day to get. Um, don't ever think you're behind. Don't ever feel like your time's running out because it's not. And that's why I talk a lot about last week in my episode about time and why I said it's a ministry for me because something I still struggle with at times is I get frustrated and down and I get you know, I it's easy to think about how long it's been and to think that it's going to take so much longer to get back, but it's not. You could change just like that. But I think it's important what your mentality is and what you focus on. And so well, ultimately what's helped me the most is growing my community, and through that community it's communication with people and being myself with people. being honest with people, and just saying where I really am, just being, I mean, truly completely honest with people and just being you and accepting, being confident who you are, who you really are. And the communication just with my support group as well, my parent, it's taken a toll on my house with my parents and my sister. It's been a long 8 years because it's taken a toll on them too in terms of, it was just a lot to see me go through this. And so, but it was a lot for them too to learn. But through it all, though, this was all God ordained, and that's what helps me keep going. And so when I struggle with the moments where I get down and frustrated, or I think about things I don't have, or we become human. We all have human moments. We have flesh within us, right? The Spirit of God reminds me, and it always has come through and reminds me. And I pray to Him. I prayed more this summer, guys. Coming out of that program, I prayed more than I ever have in my life, every single day. And I know God's about to take me somewhere, to the things I've dreamed of for so long, especially personal things that I think and I really desire, want, you know, that I feel like He's been preparing me for. But so that's where I am now, and I'm going to continue to keep healing. I'm going to heal this agoraphobia. I am healing it. I'm getting out furthermore from my house, slowly but surely, because the more I felt more comfortable with community again, the more I feel more comfortable allowing myself to go out again. And that's really all it ever was for me. And I didn't know it. Um, but God, it's like God left me on this road for the last, I'm going to say 9 years, really, since my freshman year. Since my freshman year of high school, 9 years ago, I've been on a detour. But it was a God ordained detour. If you look at other people in the Bible, like Joseph, no pun intended, but Joseph in the Bible, he was on a 13-year detour. God let him go down a hard road for 13 years till He finally blessed him and delivered him, and He did it in an ultimate way. Because really, it was big. It's always been bigger than me. This episode today, I'm be honest, I wasn't sure if I was ever going to come on and be this honest and raw with you guys about where I am currently, still like really raw. But um, what I've learned though is that the truth set you free, and that this is what I'm meant to do. And there's nothing to hide. Like I said, I understand that now. That things are never what you made them out to be, and it's okay to be safe around people. And if you're somebody out there watching right now, you feel like you need to do this, or even just privately calls people, you can call me, call somebody, let it out. You're not alone. You don't have to feel like no one's going to judge you. No one's going to think otherwise of you. People want to help you. You don't have to try to seek the acceptance of certain people or impress certain people. People just want you for you. And I had to learn that again the last year. And really, well, I had the last year, since a year and a half since I started this podcast, I realized that again. People just like you for you. And when I did that first show, like I said, the way you guys embraced me really solidified that again for me. That you know what, I am on the right path, and that this is where God wants me. Because there's many times where you just want to quit, you just want to give up, but you have to keep going. And God had me here on this path the last 9 years for a reason. It was bigger than me. It was to heal family trauma. It was to heal generational anxiety in my family, number one, which means a lot to me. It led me to what I'm doing now. We're going to be doing, helping people that I don't even know. It could be who he has, my future wife, my future kid. I mean, when I'm a father one day, when I'm people I don't even know yet. All that He's led me through the last 9 years, just preparing me for where He's taking me now, what He's been having me do the last year and a half, but also down the road, things I don't even know yet. And so, that's what helps me keep going. But also, God will send you signs too, right? And I remember, I got a story I'll tell you guys real quick. I remember year and a half ago. I remember 2 months ago. I was out on a bike ride one night, like I usually do. I always still go out on my bike rides at night, and part of my exercise workout routine I do. And on this was first week of August, a couple months ago. This night in particular, I'm out one day and I'm biking. I go on my normal route I do because I want to get back and do the rest of my workout routine at home. But for some reason, this day my body's feeling a little sore. I wanted to keep going, so I kept going further. Something told me to keep going further this day, and to skip the route and just keep going, do like a little freelance route. So I end up going around. I circle back towards my house. As I circle back towards my house, I'm running out of water. I ran out of water rather, in my fluids. So I was like, well, there was a gas station on the way, so I stopped at a place I always stop at. I get out, and as I'm pulling up, the gas station's on a corner of a busy, like a corner lot. And so I'm pulling up as I'm turning around the back end. I'm going to pull up in the front to set the bike up in the front where I can see it when I go inside. I hear this like harmonica playing. I'm like, what the harmonica? And I turn around. As soon as I turn the corner more, and I'm in the front of the building now. I see this guy, and I kind of had an idea what it was when I heard the harmonica, because this area in particular has seen some homeless people outside of there, people struggling. They live down by the river, and that's where a lot of people. It's like an area they all go when people are homeless or have nowhere to go or struggling with drugs, or they all kind of hang out down by the river in this area, and they hang out by this gas station sometimes. And so this guy's sitting out in front of the gas station. He's sitting on a crate. So I'm walking up, and I'm just trying to get in and get out. Right, I'm leaving my bike outside, but I kind of hit it to where he couldn't see it, but he already saw it. So I'm like, I was a little nervous at first. I was like, is this guy gonna try to jack my bike or what? Should I just leave and go home? I wanted a drink, so I was like, all right, screw it. So I just left it there. I'm walking up, and he goes, hey man, I'll watch your. I could tell he's a little off. He's maybe just did some drugs or something. He's going through a lot. You could tell he's homeless. Had dirt all over his face, dirty clothes. He hadn't eaten in days, and he had like little like canned foods to sit next to him. Like this guy was really struggling. You could tell. There's people out there obviously unfortunately fake that stuff, but this guy was really going through it, and I know because I know people that have gone through it, and this guy was going through it, and I just had the sense as soon as I saw him, and so nice guy though. He goes, hey man, I'll watch your bike for you, make sure nobody steals it or anything. I was like, okay, cool, man, I appreciate it. He goes, hey, you think you got a couple dollars man on the way out so I can get a beer? And I was like, a beer? He's like, yeah. He goes, I need some beer or something, man, to help me. And I said, I was thinking about it. I was like, I'm not going to give this guy money to go get alcohol. I'm not going to enable his problems. So I'm like, okay, I'll think about it. He goes, okay, cool. He goes, he even said that. He goes, just think about it. I'll watch your back. I was like, all right, cool, man. And I asked him too. I said, where do you live? But I kind of already knew. I said, where are you staying at? He goes, I live down by the water on the river outside. I was like, okay. I said, oh, okay. And so I started to feel bad because I was like, damn, you know. And so I walk inside, I get my drink. And as I'm inside, I was thinking about buying him like a water. I was in there, but I was like, I looked in, I had some spare change, some cash. I was like, well, I'll just give him the cash. Whatever I had. I think I had $8 on me in cash. I had my credit card and $8. So I get my water. I go outside. As I'm walking outside, I go. I'm starting to take my hand. I'm gonna hand him this cash. Tell him thank you for watching my bike. And gotta tell him. Try to give him some word of encouragement. Maybe you never when somebody's down like that, you kind of put all your feelings aside. And so I go up to the guy. I'm like, here, man, here's the $8. Thanks for watching my bike. And he was like, he displayed to me like how he said somebody allegedly came up to my bike and he told him, hey, man, back off like that. He got in their face. He told him to back off and he stood up and showed me. I was like, oh, cool. And so we just started talking and stuff. And he was actually, I just like, this guy was a really nice guy. I was like, he's kind of funny. So I started talking to him a little bit. I said, hey, here's $8. I said, I said, use it to get stuff you need, try to make it work. And he goes, yeah, and he starts, you can tell he just wants somebody to talk to. And he just starts talking to me. So I just sit and listen to him like, all right, cool. And I am a little weary. I don't know this guy. And I'm kind of watching his hands and stuff. I'm like, got my guard on a little bit, like in case I got to go in action defense mode. But he just started talking to me and he started telling me his life problems. He goes, man, he goes, I got in a fight with my ex and she accused me of some things. She threw me out in the streets. I got nowhere to stay. I got nobody to rely on. And, he was going through a lot. And he was telling me he's hanging in there. He's just hanging in there. And I said, well, I had my cross necklace on that I wear every day. And I said, I just looked at him. I said, hey, man, just keep looking at this right here. Keep focusing on this. And he just kind of stared at me and he just stopped and he goes, that's powerful, man. That's right. He goes, yeah, that's good stuff right there. And he was like, he liked what I said. I was like, all right, yeah. So well, just take care of him. I said, just keep going. And he's walking with me now. I start walking towards my bike because I'm getting ready to leave. He just stops me and he goes, can we do it right here? And I was like, because I mentioned to him, I said, when I said this, I said, keep praying, just keep praying. God will help you. That's all I knew to say was what helped me. And when I held the cross up, he was like, can we do it right here? And I was like, at first I was thinking, was he want to accept Christ in his heart? I thought he was going to do like that. So I'm thinking, okay, yeah, I'm not going to tell somebody no. But he just wanted me to pray for him. And here I am. I'm going to a far conversation with this guy. It's made it this far. I'm like, I was just going to hand him the money and leave and tell him thank you and good luck. But I just felt in that moment, God was like, I need you to do this, Joseph. I have you here for a reason. So I'm like, no wonder why I took a detour on my bike path today. And so I started praying. He reached out and grabbed my hand, and I grabbed his hand, and I just prayed for him a bit and just spoke over him and prayed for him and asked God to, blot anything out of him. I just said it real personal. I just said a deep prayer for him right there. And when it was done, I saw he had some tears coming out of his eyes, and it was pretty emotional. It was kind of surreal for me. I was kind of like, first time I really had to do that in public like that with somebody. But I was like, it really helped him. He looked at me, he goes, he goes, man, I'm feeling better already. I feel lighter already. I was like, that's awesome, man. I said, keep going. Just keep praying. He's like, I will. And he told me his name was Jared. I shook his hand. I said, my name was Joe. And I just left. And I remember it was really surreal when I got home. I was like, damn, that's great. Like, I couldn't believe I felt honored God had called me to do that. Like, it was just like really cool. I felt honored to do it. And that wasn't about me. It was just to be a part of something like that to help somebody, seeing somebody go through that too. And just the guy still had a smile on his face, though. He was still making the best out of life. Fast forward a week later, I see the guy. He's outside of the store again. He doesn't remember me, but I remember him. He runs up on me and he goes, hey, man, he's asked me for money again for beer. Or no, actually, he thought I had the WEED on me, which I don't ever use. I don't use that stuff, obviously. But I think because I have a book bag on me when I'm out, I have to keep a bag on me to keep my chain in and stuff. Because I stop somewhere like a park, I had certain my drinks and stuff. I had to keep a bag on me, my book bag to carry my stuff around. But he thought maybe I was like a, biking around dealing. I guess I don't know, but I'm like, no, that's not me. But not the first guy too. That's weird. Every time people see you on a bike now with a book bag, especially maybe it's just my town. Like they think some people think you're out, slaying stuff, but I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm just a biker, dude. Like, I'm just cycling, dude. Just leave me alone. Have have a nice day. Hasta luego. But so he sees me again, but I remembered him. I said, I thought he remembered me at first. I was like, hey man, are you doing better? I said, your name's Jared, right? His name was Jared. And like I said, I was the guy you saw last week. And he remembered, and he goes, oh, that's you. He goes, my dude. And he like shakes my hand. I'm like, yeah, what's up, dude? We're out in the corner by the road. He ran out towards me and he's like, I said, how you doing, man? He goes, man, I'm trying, man. I'm hanging in there. I just said, hey, I said, listen, remember I told you about this? I said, just keep praying, keep going. He goes, I will, man. He goes, I will. You're right. He goes, I said, and I looked at him. I said, look, you're still here a week later. And he's like, you're right. He goes, yeah, you're right. And he's like, I appreciate that, man. I could tell too. He looked worse a week later. The pain, like he looked like he hadn't slept in a month. His eyes were so messed up. He was more dirt on him. It was really sad. I was like, hey man, you're gonna get there, right? So that's the first couple weeks of August. The week of my birthday last month, it was a Wednesday of that week. My mom and I go out to lunch, right around the corner from there. I'm out to lunch with my mom. We're sitting there, and all of a sudden, guess who walks in and sits at the bar next to us? It's Jared. He's got clean clothes on. He's got a phone that works. He looked like a totally different person. And he just looked so happy. There was people there helping him out. At this restaurant we were at, the people knew him. They were helping him out. They were getting ready to give him a little job. And I hear him. He didn't see me. You know, I didn't want to like bother him. I was just sitting there watching. All right, and I kind of was like sitting. He was right next to me, talking to somebody at the bar. I heard him say his name, Jared. I knew it was him. I could tell it was him. But he just looked like a totally different person in a month. He had clean clothes on. He looked like he had a place to stay now. He had a phone. You know, he was sitting there. People were like, "Hey," they were like, "Hey, Jared, what's up? Come over here." And he was. I hear him talking at the bar. And he's telling people like, he goes, "Yeah." He goes, I got a new lady now that's helping me out, get back on my feet. My new girlfriend, and I met her, and I got other people helping me get back on my feet now, and I'm doing much better now." And I was just like stunned. And I looked at my mom. My mom knew who he was. I told my mom what happened when I came home that night, the first time and the second time as well. My parents knew. I was telling them about it, and they were like, in case they saw him out in front of the store still, but he wasn't there. He disappeared. After a while, he didn't see him again. Well, he started getting better. Somebody, I don't know what happened. I didn't, like I said, I didn't talk to him and stuff, but it was just amazing to see a guy in a month. What a turn of events in a month, and what God can do in a month for a guy. I saw this guy. I was holding his hand at that gas station, praying for him. The guy was, he didn't know he was going to make it. And he told me that a week later, he's just barely making it. He felt like he was just hanging on for dear life. Look what God did for him in a month, though. God gave him a person, somebody, like a woman that could help him. It seemed like when the guy told me his story, it seemed like he was heartbroken. But God gave him somebody else that accepted him from where he was and helped him get back on his feet. People around him, his community started to grow. And I'm sure the guy's on his way now. Last I saw him, I haven't seen him since, but I'm assuming he's still going. And that was a month ago when I saw him. At the month prior after that, and he looked great. I remember I was sitting there at my lunch, and it just made my whole day, made my whole year. I looked at my mom and I was like, "That's Jared. That's that guy," and I just could not believe it. And I was like, "This is awesome." And how good is God? God is so good. And I just felt honored that I even got to be a part of, not to help pray. Maybe that prayer I gave. You guys, what my whole point is, you never know what God can do like that, but also you never know what you putting yourself out there, being wrong and honest people, and just you never know what it can do for somebody else. That guy don't even know me. I don't know where he is right now, but I'll never forget that guy for the rest of my life. He changed me. He helped me grow more. Because I'll be honest with you guys, like I said earlier, when I still have days now where I still kind of struggle, where I get down and frustrated. I was going through a rough day that day, and I just had a lot going on my mind that day. I was going through a lot of things internally, and a lot of heavy things I was starting to figure out more of. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of those things. And it was like God sent me an angel, and he didn't even know it. And he thought I was his angel, but he really was my angel. And changed me forever. I'll never forget that. And it helps me. It was another example God gave me to say, keep going, Joseph. Because let me tell you something. Let's say I did the norm. Let's say none of that happened to me in high school, right? Let's say I would have went through high school and did the norm like everybody else, and when I went to college and did the norm like everybody else. Would have got out of college and got a basic job and did the norm like everybody. None of I hate anybody doing that. God's path, he's got path. Anybody working, salute to you. No matter what you are, it doesn't define you. But had I done the norm, because God, my path in my life, God did not have the norm plan for me. But had I gone the norm, or had I have not done God's will and just been very worldly, had I not had God in my life and just went along with the go along to get along and did a lot of those normal things, I would never have been led up to that day to meet Jared. I would have never met Jared. I would have never met Dennis Simsek, the anxiety guy. I never met a lot of you. I wouldn't be where I am now. I wouldn't have people in my life. I wouldn't know people like Mike Antonese and Corey and Mike and Jeremy. All these things in my life, and not just my life, but my parents' life. We wouldn't know a lot of these people now. Our lives would be. My dad probably wouldn't be at where he's working at now. Maybe not my mom. I don't know if they'd even be. Who knows what our home would be like? To be honest with you. And what really helps me too is seeing my sister go to high school now and where she's at and what she's able to experience. That, yeah, I wasn't able to experience things, right? And that hurt me for a while. I was upset about that. But I'd rather me go through it than her. Because it would have been a lot harder, number one, on a female, a young girl. I think it's a lot harder on girls to go through stuff like that. But also, because I love her so much, she's my little baby sister. She's still like my baby sister, even though she's 15 now and getting older. But I want her to experience the things. I want her to have that fun. I want her to be able to enjoy herself in her high school years and play sports and have friends and go to homecoming and go to football games on Friday nights and just be a kid. You know, I want her to experience that. Yeah, there was things I wasn't able to do, but it's like I mentioned earlier. I was things I did in middle school early on in this episode. There was things I did in middle school that a lot of people didn't get to do, and really that was God looking out for me. God let me do certain things earlier, allow me to have certain experiences earlier in life because He knew what was going to happen down the road. And a lot of things I missed out, and the things I still desire in my life and missed out on, guys. It will happen. He's promised it. I know He has, and it'll happen just like that because He showed me again. That was a reminder for me 2 months ago what He did with that Jared guy. It was a reminder for me. He was speaking to me, and ever since then, guys, I just felt my relationship grew even more with God. And I just feel so much more settled now in my life and just more, and I know what I need to do now. And I know what I desire in my life. And a lot of what I desire, what I need to do to help me fully overcome and heal this agoraphobia for good, it's already in front of me. I'm already doing it slowly but surely. And I'm going to keep chipping away at it. And I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to stop. And so, yeah, that's where I'm at in my journey. I'm sorry if you hear a dog bark in the background. Sometimes he just likes to start going off when he sees somebody outside, but forget about that. But but no, that's where I'm at, and that's the update of my journey. And I'm gonna keep going. I appreciate all you guys. I love all you guys so much. Like I said, you guys have no idea how much you guys have supported me or just tuned in to watch. It means so much to me. And it's not my work; it's God's work. I'll give all the glory to Him. I'm just one of His servants doing God's work, and He'll take care of me. But it's all about helping people and ultimately leading people to Him. And so, yeah, that's where I am. I had a clip I was going to play from the anxiety guy for like 3 minutes, where he kind of explains. I'll play. You know what? I'll play it real quick. It's the beginning of a video, and I'll link the video below. But a lot of what he's just going to share, kind of what he went through, and this is very similar to my journey, what he's about to explain. And let me play it real quick.
Head on over here. And friends, today we are going through social anxiety. Now, let me give you some insight as to what it was like when I was suffering from these multiple anxiety disorders. Social anxiety was there all the time, no matter what my diagnosis was. But it wasn't a primary concern for me. Health anxiety was right up there with the concern over my physical well-being. Generalized anxiety was right there in terms of catastrophizing situations that were upcoming in the future. And no matter what kind of anxiety disorder you're going through right now, there's a sense of shame when it comes to conversing and dealing with people. I felt that for many, many years. I am so shameful. I could see it in my body language. I could see it in the way the ideas were floating in my mind. And any time I was invited to a social interaction or met a stranger somewhere, I felt like I'm not worthy of this conversation, number one. And number two, if I do in fact put myself out there, something may go wrong, right? That's that whole stand in guard cycle where we have to stand guard to the next potential threat. At least anxiety makes us feel this way. But today, I want us to conquer this social anxiety, and healing can, in fact, be quite swift. Many people out there don't like the idea or aren't comfortable with the idea that things can happen quickly, change can happen quickly. But I want you to understand that you have the potential to, in fact, change things going on in the inside world quite swiftly when we come to an understanding as to what's keeping us stuck. So I'm going to share with you 5 different ways that you
Now I'll link this video below. You want to continue watching that? It's a great point he makes in that video. But that's a summary though. What he just explained there in the beginning, what he went through. It's kind of funny. Him and I know each other, have a relationship now in a way, and he's become a big part of my life. Is because him and I have very similar paths, very identical. Our journey, or he. It's like he said there. Well, when I explained you guys, what I tried to explain to you guys in full today was the multiple anxieties I had, but it all really led back to one thing that was really causing all of it. I knew what GAD was. I knew what the health anxiety was. I knew what the panic was. I knew what anxiety was, but it was something deeper that was really what's been holding me back more. And I had to go through the inner circle program to really find it. And that's led me up to where I am now. So now, like I said, guys, I'm at a point now where I know what I need to do, and it's just applying now. And it's just going out and just reconnecting, growing my community more, growing that community more, connecting with people, and being around people again more and more, and just feeling comfortable with myself. It's proving safety more and more, which is what I've been doing more, and I'm gonna continue to keep doing. And I'm gonna continue to keep doing this podcast, and this has ultimately helped me a lot. And so, helping people will help you in turn more than you know it. And this is also a good thing for me today. I wanted to do this just to kind of clear the air with people in general, maybe people in my family, people and my friends, maybe people that I've started to get to know don't really know me or don't really understand what's going on in full. To kind of give you guys like an open and honest, like this is where I am. This is what I'm still going through at times. It's something I'm still battling through, healing through the agoraphobia. And so, but I feel so much more, I know I'm there now. I know I'm there for good. I don't know I'm not looking back. I'm not going back ever again for good. And so, um, I know God's, like I said, I feel like in my heart, and what led me to do this, to this episode today, up until my 100th episode, because I feel like God's getting ready to take me somewhere different to the next chapter of my life, the next phase where I can help people more and grow my community more beyond the radius I was in for the last 8 years. And so, and also too, I read this today. I want to share this with you guys before I get out of here. I know I'm going on, but I had no time limit for this today. This is an important episode to me. So, in my daily devotional today, October 3rd, in this one part, it says, "What is the true church?" One of the Greek words for church, ecclesia, means the called out ones, called out of the world, yet to be the light of Christ. This is troubling for many. This is troubling for many because as they strive to take God's word to unbelievers, they are often more influenced by the ways of the world. Most of all, the church belongs to Jesus Christ. He founded the church. The church does not belong to the pastors or congregation, but to Christ alone. It is his dwelling place on earth. Through the lives of his followers, the world's sewage system threatens to contaminate the stream of Christian thought. The church must quickly recover the authoritative message of Christ. But what really stood out to me there was it's troubling for many to shed God's light because they take God's words to unbelievers. Wait, so as they strive to take God's word to unbelievers, they are often more influenced by the ways of the world. And so that's also why I wanted to do this and why I do this show is to inspire you guys to just be you. Do what God's calling you to do, no matter how odd it may seem or how different it may be. If you feel like you're the only one, how I felt when I started this, or at times in my journey where I felt alone, you're not alone. But also understand that God has you on a special, unique path for a reason. You can't worry about what the world says or what the world says, because guess what? You'll miss out on your ultimate blessings and the best in life. God has the best in life for you. But if you're trying to play it safe like I did for so long, if you're trying to keep yourself in a bubble and put on an image for so long and trying to play everything safe for so long and try to hang on to things that don't belong to you, don't matter in your life, that don't have any room in your life, they're not for you, the more you're going to miss out and the more you're going to stay stuck. Like Dennis said there, feeling stuck, and you're not going to heal. You're always going to stay in the cycle. You can numb the pain for as long as you can here and there for stretches, but it's like the most people you see in society nowadays that we celebrate, that we think are most successful, and man, their life's great, they have never no problems. A lot of those people you see usually actually have the worst lives you can think of internally. It's better to have internal peace and know Christ and be the poorest person on the planet financially than to have it all but not know Christ and not have inner peace. And a lot of people we celebrate society have that second part. There's you guys, you wouldn't believe. And I've been fortunate. Well, I've had the opportunity growing up to be around a lot of, just through my dad's work and just watch following athletes closely, and just I've been around a lot of guys that have been people that have in that lifestyle at the top, and I've seen it from afar and up close. And guys, a lot of those people you see, they're not really. You can here if I could find you can just go online and really study these people and listen to people that have been around these people, the people these celebrities or just people we put out there, that we say is the bar of success in society. A lot of people really in their hearts are at the bottom. They use a lot of things to cover up a lot of pains, to cope with a lot of things and to numb a lot of things, and they just keep going and keep putting out this image. And I'm not picking on them. Anybody can be turned to be saved at any moment, or can turn their life around, or at any moment. I wish everybody to do well. I'm not. I'm here for everybody, but don't focus on the world. Focus on God and His will for your life and where He's going to take you, because you never know what He has in store for you. And when I did that first episode a year and a half ago, I didn't know what He had. I didn't really fully know what He had in store for me, and I still don't know now what He fully has in store for me. But I do know one thing: the more I keep doing His work, by what I did today, the more I share my story and be honest with you guys and helping you guys to open up, to relate to you guys, to do the best I can to give you guys some type of support and let you know you're not alone, and that the message Christ shared with what God has implanted in me to open up and share with you guys. The more I know I'm on my way, and I'm right where I need to be, and that everything's going to be fine, and I'll be just fine. God will take great care of me, and you guys will all see it, and I want to see it with you guys too. So that's my show for today, 99th episode. Looking forward to the 100th episode. Like I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. I want to do a live stream this Sunday, maybe. But I got to see if everybody's available. We'll see. I'm thinking that's what I want to do. I want to do a fun one, just laid back, and relaxed, and everybody can kick back and relax, just kind of have a good time and enjoy it. And so that's what a lot of those live streams are, just kind of ripped and wrapped, talking ball and just life things, just joking around and stuff. So we'll see. I'll let you guys know. I'll put out a post maybe that we're going to do a live this Sunday celebrating that. And thank all you guys for reaching it this far. I mean, without you guys helping me, supporting me, keeping me going, I don't know, there wouldn't be 99 episodes. I can tell you that. But and mostly God, and I thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for giving me the strength to go this far. My support staff, my support system, and people around me that help me, my staff of people that God has placed in my life to help me. So all you guys, love all you guys. Thank you dearly last year and a half for helping me keep going and to help me grow this podcast more. It really means a lot. But also getting to know you guys more. And yeah, and just so let's continue on that. I want to hear your guys' stories. I want to see hear your guys' testimonies. So let's start putting it out there. And if you're not ready yet to do it, just pray about it. Let's get out there. We need more soldiers out there. We need more people putting themselves out there, because you never know. Like I said, it could help a Jared, or you could be a Jared. You could feel like you were in Jared's place, you never know who can impact. You don't have to have a lot to help people. Just saying. So, yeah, let's do it. Leave your comment below. I love all you guys. Thanks for sitting through this launch show today. But I felt like this was needed for me to do, so that's why I did it. This passion. Yeah, I made it this far, and we're gonna keep going and keep trucking along with this podcast. And I can't wait to see where it goes here in the future, wherever God takes it. So that's all I got for you guys today. I'm a little tired now. Love all you guys. Like, subscribe, share, do all that good stuff for me. And yeah, just love all you guys, man. God is good. I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm out of here. Gone.